Hello, friends. It's a pleasure to see you again. This time we have got Mr. Rohit Rangan, All India rank 34. He is son of legendary accounts professor Kasturi Rangan sir's son, and he has got All India rank 34. தமிழ்ல புலிக்கு பிறந்தது பூனை ஆகுமா அப்படிமா. So that means for a tiger a cat would not be born. So for a tiger another tiger has been born. That's the saying. But I have to literally translate into English. So welcome, Rohit. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for taking time and taking this in this. I'll not say interview these questions so that it will be really useful for the students who are going to write the exams. Right? It's a pleasure to have you. So I got few kind of questions. Right. So the first one that I need to understand. I know your dad would be definitely be an inspiration to you. Apart from your dad, so there is no question there. That has to be an inspiration. Your dad is a special thing for you. Apart from your dad, who was an inspiration for you to get into the CA? Okay. That is definitely the first one. So there is no second, there is no thing that there is nothing big surprise if at all you have to say that. So that's the foremost thing that you will have. So apart from your father, who is the next inspiration to get into the CA curriculum?
First of all, thank you very much, sir, for having me here and giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts. So inspiration as such, yeah, my dad is my first inspiration to get into this course. But I would say my second inspiration would be the course in itself. There's no specific person, because this course gave me the belief that I could be a person who's ethical. I could be a person who would be rewarded for my hard work. And definitely, if I keep thinking in this manner, I'll be able to succeed in my life. So this course inspired me to think in that way, which is what got me attracted to this course immediately.
Great, great. I rarely hear this from people. So the next one is, there are so much of distractions these days we have got, like Facebook, Instagram, so much of social media. How do you think that you are able to manage your studies and your other activities?
Okay, that's a very relevant question, first of all. And I too have been guilty of being distracted by the buzz of social media and the plethora of information available around us. And what I try to do is I try to navigate through all of this. I keep track of the time which I spent on each app in a day, and I monitor it. So whichever day I feel like I'm spending more than what I should have, I will see if I have a reasonable justification for that. Like if it's a holiday, maybe I would spend an hour more on social media. So if I have a reasonable justification, I don't take any action. If I've achieved my target which I've set for that day, I don't take any remedial action. But where I feel that I've crossed any limit, I immediately take remedial action, and I try to compensate for it. But on a macro level, I think it is good that we keep a tab on the time that is being spent on each of these apps, and that will help us to control and be focused on what we have ahead of us, what we want to achieve.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Right now, the next very relevant question according to me is you were in the Corona period when you had to attend your classes. So earlier, at least for South Indian people, there were not too much of people had preferred this video. They were all preferring only physical. So how did you manage, whether it was a physical class or it was a video class, and which one do you suggest for these days students? Should they continue with video, or should they go and try the physical one, the old model of physical one, or should they stick to the video class?
Well, I think each model has its own pros and cons, and each student should weigh it according to their own circumstances and take a decision. For example, the pros that you have in physical model is that live interaction with your teachers, and many times your teachers are inspiring. You can get clarified your doubts there and then. There are many pros, but cons on one side may be that you will have to travel and the time that you have to spend on traveling, and there may be some other sort of wastage of time, like after class you may have to spend some time with your friends, and all of this might be there. So these are some of the cons. Whereas if you take the online class, it's exactly the opposite, the pros and cons. So I think people have to take a call. based upon their own circumstances and situations. And yeah, that would be my advice. Yeah.
Great. Sure. Now, so you cleared in this May examination. So how much leave you think that it's required for someone who is going to start afresh, has only completed their classes, not done any of their studies, maybe a little bit of studies here and there. How much leave you think that it's required for writing your final examination, both the groups together?
Both the groups together. Okay. So I think the November attempt is going to come. We have only 2 more months left, I guess.
Yeah, forget about November, maybe future in case it's going to be May 23 or November 23 for those people.
Okay. Okay. So I'm speaking keeping in mind the old course that we have currently,
Yeah.
and not talking about the new course.
Yeah, sure.
So if students have finished their classes by now, I think it's the right time. They can start studying. And with respect to your study holidays, I think a good amount of time would be 4 to 5 months would definitely be a good amount of time. I myself was lucky enough to get around 4.5 months as my study leave, and it's more about the utilization of the time rather than the time you have in hand, because what I have observed is time flies like this. It flies very fast. So it's about how you utilize every day and every minute. That's what counts. So, yeah.
Right, great. So assuming a person gets 4 months leave, let's say 4 months leave. So how much hour do you think that per day he has to concentrate to clear this CA final?
Okay. Again, it may vary depending on person to person and their abilities. So I will just narrate my situation or
Yeah.
my example. In my case, at least for the first 2 months, I was studying around roughly 10 hours every day.
Okay.
I used to take healthy breaks,
Okay.
and I used to keep myself refreshed so that I could focus on my next session.
Okay.
For the last 2 months, because there was a lot more to cover and very little time, the pressure was high, I used to study around 12 to 14 hours.
Right.
So the break time reduced a little bit, but
Right.
that was required in order to get the final push.
Right. So if at all I have to stop here, for those who are seeing the video, he said 12 to 14 hours of study, sir, not keeping the book in hand. So 12 to 14 hours of actual study should be sufficient is what Rohit feels, and yeah, most of us will feel the same thing. So one thing where people actually find it difficult is like in these 4 months, they don't have anything to do other than studies. How someone has to keep themselves motivated to do the same thing in the 4 months? Assuming it's 4 months of leave, how someone has to keep themselves motivated in these 4 months?
Right. So, okay, I'll just tell the people about my thought process about this. So, how I used to think was these 4 months are the golden period of my life where I have a chance to change my life, where I have a chance to not spend the next 6 months again studying, rather thinking about my professional journey ahead. So I always used to, that thought kept on running in my mind. And every day morning, I used to think about that. And I was like, I should utilize this to the best of my ability, and I should do my maximum. So that's from where I got my motivation to give my best during the 4 months, because I didn't want to spend another 6 months of my life going through this strenuous process. So yeah.
Correct. Absolutely. Right. Great. Now, your take on the elective paper?
Elective. Okay, this is a very interesting question, because CA Institute gives you a lot of options, and obviously it's open book in each option. So I was actually guilty of making a slight mistake here, because I did my research thoroughly. I looked at the statistics, which paper would give you maximum marks, which has highest pass percentage or exemption percentage, because that is a paper everyone should really target at scoring really good marks. It is a golden opportunity to get you through both groups and help you clear your CA. So there, what I did was I looked at the past statistics, the past records, and I chose economic loss 6B. But only after I wrote my paper, I also had the risk management in my mind, but I finally ended up choosing economic loss because I was confident in my ability to research and get to the answer. Because in during my days of articleship, that is what I was pretty good at. So I
Absolutely.
was confident in that ability.
Okay.
But after my examination, I incidentally wanted to have a look at what would come in a multidisciplinary paper. That's when I found it very interesting that
Okay.
for most of the multidisciplinary papers, even though the case study seemed very big,
Okay.
the questions they had specifically given para references in the question,
Okay. Okay.
whereby the student did not have to study or read the entire case study.
Okay. Okay.
And the questions were also pretty simple as compared to economic law, because
Okay.
this is a paper, economic law is a paper which they are increasing the standard with every attempt. And
Absolutely.
it is not becoming difficult. It is becoming more and more difficult to ace it as the
Absolutely.
attempts increase. So this was something I was guilty of. But what I would recommend is for someone who's writing, let's say May 23, to go through 3 or 4 attempts for each of these subjects. Just go through the papers and till the date of when you have to choose the elective paper, try to do that. By the time your examination form comes out, you would have at least revised 80% to 90% of your subjects at least 1 or 2 times.
Correct.
At that time, try to solve one multidisciplinary paper.
Absolutely.
Try to speak to people who have solved it, and if you find it easy, maybe you can take it.
Absolutely.
And the number of people who are choosing that paper is very less.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Correct.
But yeah, you don't have to study anything extra.
Absolutely.
So that's a big advantage. Each course has its pros and cons. Each elective, you have to choose based upon your abilities, your strengths. But don't go with a narrow mind that I will just choose papers where everyone has passed. Maybe that is not your strength. Maybe you have a different strength.
Correct.
Yeah.
Great. Now, the next one is how many revisions you think it's required before you actually get into your final? No, I know it differs from person to person, but on a rough basis, how many revisions you think it's required to write your exam?
I think 3 revisions should be sufficient.
Okay.
4 revisions, if you're able to do, that's very good.
Great.
But 3 revisions should be more than enough. Yeah.
Right. So how about a test paper? You think that I have to write a test in the institute or some test series, or what is your take on those tests before you write your exams?
Okay, I would strongly recommend everyone to write at least two test series, at least 2 test series.
Okay.
If you have the ability to write more, please go ahead. And by test series, I mean write all the 8 subjects. I don't mean one subject where you think you're weak. The simple reason for this is that for your 2.5 years of articleship, you spend on your laptop and you don't get a chance to write after you've written your inter exam.
Absolutely.
So when you write that first test paper, you will realize that you've probably become way slower than you thought you were. And your handwriting may not be as good. Your presentation may not be as good, because ultimately that is what the examiner is going to look at. No matter how well or how thorough you're in your subject, your presentation, your content, your handwriting, and the way you're able to process it and put it on paper, that is what ultimately matters. And your ability to complete the paper will depend on your speed, which comes with more and more writing. It's not necessary that you have to write all the standards or law or everything like that, but read your syllabus and write at least 2 to 3 test series. That should be enough.
Absolutely. So the most critical constraint in examination is time. So within the 3 hours we have to. I am able to appreciate it. How useful were these RTPs, mark test papers that were available in the institute? All those study material of the institute. What do you recommend to the students that we have?
Okay, to be honest, I have not referred any sort of guidebook, so to say. I have completely relied on the institute study material.
Great.
I know many people feel that it is voluminous, and yes, I agree, it is voluminous. There are some good guidebooks out there which give you knowledge in a more concise and crisp manner. But generally, what happens is, even as authors, they might have to take a call on what to edit out. So that will be according to their experience, but times are also changing. So CA Institute may want to focus on a different aspect which might have been edited out. So if you want to completely avoid that risk, you have to refer to your institute study material fully. RTPs I feel are very, very useful because it increases your ability to think. and none of the exam papers as such, even in my attempt, has previously asked questions. Max to max, you can say 20 marks out of all the papers I've attended.
Oh, all the papers. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So, especially in evolving subjects like direct tax, indirect tax,
Correct.
and law, it's very hard that you get repeated questions.
Right.
So, you should focus more on your ability to think, which is what RTPs and case study digest will help you do.
Absolutely. Right. So the other thing, as you actually touched upon the subject, how important are the amendments specifically, at least in relation to direct tax, indirect tax, and of course the company law? So how important are the amendments in coming to these three subjects? There are not too much of amendments to other subjects, but these three subjects there will be. How important are the amendments for this?
These all the amendments that we get for either law, direct tax, or indirect tax, or even audit, so to say, I would say all of these are very important because out of, let's say, 70 marks of law or 70 marks of direct tax, at least 10 to 20% will come from these amendments.
Okay.
So it's very, very important.
Okay. Absolutely. So coming to the next one, what's your take on your MCQ? Is it difficult or easy, or is it like normal question?
I would say it's a mix, and in my attempt, I felt that the MCQs were above average.
Okay.
Yes, they were not very hard.
Okay.
Some questions were very hard.
Okay.
Some questions were easy, but
Okay.
most of them were above average.
Okay.
And MCQs are often very tricky because they want you to completely understand the question.
Okay.
And then solve the question, which means you will have to spend a good amount of time.
Okay.
People view MCQs as something which saves your time.
Absolutely.
But what I have observed, even I had that notion in the start, but what I've observed is they want you to take that time and solve the MCQ. It involves a lot of mathematical calculations. That's how they give you the MCQ.
Absolutely.
It's not simple. It's not what we think it is.
Understand.
Yeah.
Great. Now, a piece of advice for intermediate students.
Intermediate students. So my advice wouldn't differ that much in terms of the fact that you have to be consistent, you have to put in hard work, you need to know the value of your time and utilize it properly.
Okay. So final question, just 2 months down the line for November exams, what would be like 2 bullet points? If at all you have to say, these two are extremely critical. So what you would say that these two are extremely critical if at all I have to clear my November exams? It's just 2 months down the line.
Sure. Revise as much as possible.
Okay.
Write as many test series as possible.
Great. So anything else you want to add for the benefit of students?
I think I don't have anything extra to add, but I feel that students should realize the value of this course, appreciate how it shapes them as a person.
Absolutely.
And that is when they will understand, who they are going to become and what they are aiming to become.
Absolutely. Great, Rohit. It was a pleasure talking to you. I think students would have definitely had so much to take from this video. They would definitely be too much benefited out of your thoughts that you have given. That's why I just wanted to get from the horse mouth itself. You just cleared your intermediate final with flying colors, and you will definitely be. You will definitely be getting into a great position in future. All the best for your future, Rohit. It was a pleasure talking to you. Once again, thank you and congrats for your mind. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.